Hey, Vinyl community, we are back. I decided to do the 2025 Progressive Rock Vinyl Tag that was put out by Alex of Beer and Vinyl. He's got a great channel if you have not checked it out, and he has done the Progressive Rock Vinyl Tag this year. I believe he did it last year as well. And this is a good one. It's 15 questions, and I think it's entry level, right? Anybody can do this if you've been listening to prog for a really long time, or if you're just brand new into it. It's good, and I think it also helps you to realize that prog is in so many different things. So, without further ado, let's get started because I've got a bunch of albums to show you. So, the first question is your favorite progressive purchase or release of 2024. So mine is going to be a purchase of 2024 because I didn't buy any new progressive rock or progressive music of any sort in 2024. So the one I've got, and I've shown it in another video, but I'll show it again. It's Cressida. This guy right here. This one is a grail when it comes to prog rock. And this came out in 1970. This is an outstanding album, and I'll show you the Vertigo label because that's what everybody wants, right? They want to see the Vertigo. So there's the Vertigo swirl. Round and round she goes. And then this is only on the early labels. You have Vertigo, and then right at the bottom there, you have a Philips record product. Those are just on the ones that came out in 69 and 70, pretty much, early 70, and then they phased away that little credit down there. But this is an absolutely fantastic album. This they only had two, and they're very sought after. They've become kind of a cult favorite and a darling of the golden era of prog. So this is a really good album. If you've not heard it, I would definitely check it out. Was really fortunate to find this one this last year. I don't know how I'm going to top it this year, but we'll certainly try. Next question: your latest discovery or deep dive of a prog band? All right, so the prog band that I have been deep diving, I've been deep diving for a while, is Caravan. This is their first album. And their first album is a little bit more on the psych side. And I don't have any of the UK pressings of any of their albums. So their first one here was on Verve. And they formed in 1968, and they were part of the Canterbury scene. And one of the forerunners of prog in the prog movement. And I'll show you all the albums I have of theirs. This is their second one. This one's my favorite. It's called If I Could Do It All Over Again, I'd Do It All Over You. And this one is my absolute fave. This one is on Decca, I believe, or London, actually, rather, in the States. London in the States. I think Decca in the UK. And then here's their third album. This one is the most accessible. This one, if you've never heard of the band, or if you're looking to get into prog, their third album here, In the Land of Grey and Pink, is a great place to start. And then I'll just show you the other ones I have real quick of theirs. I have Waterloo Lily, again on London. And then I've got this one here, For Girls Who Grow Plump in the Night, on London again. And then we've got Caravan and the New Symphony. Caravan Cunning Stunts. Oh, it's a fun cover. And the last Caravan album that I have, from 1976 is Caravan Blind Dog at St. Dunstan's. With the dog gangster there. All right, that's my deep dive fan. Question number 3, an artist or musician we lost in 2024. I have mentioned this artist before. This artist is real near and dear to my heart. Phil Lesh is the one I'm choosing. You may say he wasn't a progressive rock guy. I would beg to differ on that one. A project that he was involved with here called Seastones is very progressive, very artistic. He did this with Ned Lagan, and these are electronic compositions. Jerry Garcia was involved with this, David Crosby, Grace Slick, and Mickey Hart. And this is a real odd album. It's on Rounder Records, but it's pretty awesome. And I would say it definitely falls in the progressive vein. And I will show you another album that Phil was involved with that I do believe also is probably the most progressive in the Grateful Dead catalog, and it's Anthem of the Sun. I think this one is their most progressive rock album. And this is Phil's version that he remixed in 72 and came out in 73. It has the white instead of the purple around. I'd say their next album, Oxo Moxoa, that came after this version came out in 68, is more psychedelic. This one's more progressive. And what would we define as progressive? I would say it's usually a building atmosphere that goes somewhere. And a lot of people argue, okay, well, the Grateful Dead live doesn't necessarily go anywhere. Sometimes it's just noodling. These albums, and that album in particular, definitely has a start, beginning, and finish, and is building to something. So that's why I would classify that one as progressive rock. Really miss Phil Lesh, miss his work. Sad to have seen him go this last October. All right, question number 4, an album that is celebrating 50 years, so that came out in 1975. All right, the one I'm choosing for this could almost, in my mind, be album of the year for 1975 as well, and it's Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. This is a phenomenal progressive rock album, about as good as they come. A lot of people would argue that Dark Side is their magnum opus in a progressive rock, which came out earlier, 73, I believe. But this one here is phenomenal. Got the UK press here with the postcard. Still has the purple cellophane over the top of it. And I'll show you, I've got the US version, much the same. It's kind of fun. They come with these stickers on there as well. I don't know if you can quite see that. I'll bring it up to the camera there. And here's the US version. Not as cool as the UK. Little lighter blue. Similar sticker. But just a fantastic album. Really, it's a perfect album. I mean, there's no two ways around it. So, number 5 question: show an album that represents a prog subgenre. All right, the prog subgenre that I am choosing would be neo-progressive, and I think Alan Parsons Project represents neo-progressive rock quite well. This is their 1980 album here, The Turn of a Friendly Card, that has Games People Play on there, was a hit for them. And Alan Parsons had several amazing albums. He also produced Dark Side of the Moon for Pink Floyd. So this guy knows a thing or two about progressive rock. And some of his stuff in the 80s was a little bit more poppy, but it definitely was in that progressive vein. I'll show you another one of his albums. This one here, Eye in the Sky, came out in 1982. And the title song there, Eye in the Sky, was a hit for them as well. Alan Parsons is an amazing guy, and the Alan Parsons Project was a really great group. So I'm sure most people are familiar with them, but if you're not, their greatest hits is a great place to start with those guys. Right, question number 6: show an instrumental album without lyrics. Okay, so I chose this guy here. This is Bo Hansen, music inspired by Lord of the Rings. So yes, this is all instrumental. This is all compositions that were inspired by the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And Bo was a Scandinavian artist, but he hung out with Jimi Hendrix and some players with some major chops. So he definitely was doing his thing. And then I'll show you, this one actually is the US pressing, and it's on the Charisma label, which Alex said was his favorite label. And there's that Mad Hatter. Looks like he just got into something good. He's got the Cheshire Cat there and the rabbit that's late for the important date. That is a fun label. That was a good choice, Alex. All right, well, the next question is favorite record label, which we were just talking about. And my favorite record label as it relates to prog music and music, I'd say that's just also just out there, not mainstream music by any means. I'm going with the Regal Zonoscope, or a Zonophone rather, sorry. Here is one of them. This is Master's Apprentice, A Toast to Panama Red. This one's on Regal Zonophone, which is a subsidiary of EMI, which was a subsidiary of Parlophone. So the parent company had deep pockets. But I'll show you the label here. Nice red label. And it looks like the name says, it's Regal. And this is a fantastic album too. I don't think I've shown this one yet. But I'll show you a few other albums that are also on the same label. And I've shown this one before as well. I had this one last year. This is The Moves' first album, self-titled, also on Regal Zonophone. And T-Rex, his first 2 albums when he was Tyrannosaurus Rex were on Regal Zonophone. And I'll show you his second one here, because this is the mono label. It's kind of cool. It's similar to the stereo, but you get that nice mono on there. Really like that label. This looks really professional, which is wild because some of the music is really out there. So, all right, the next question is, show a local hero or an artist from your area. So I pondered on this one for quite a while because I don't know of a lot of straight out progressive rock folks that we have in Minnesota, but I did find one that I think fits the bill pretty well. And his name is Steve Tibbetts. And I've got 3 of his albums. He was born in Madison, Wisconsin, which isn't too far away from us. And this is his first album here that came out in 1978. And he recorded most of his albums in St. Paul, Minnesota. And that's also where he performed as well. and he has jazz rock influences, folk influences, and prog influences too. A lot of his pieces, his compositions are going somewhere, right? I'll show you his other two albums. This one's called YR. Picture of Steve back there when he was a little lad, 1961. But he's got some awesome artwork on his albums. Here's the last one I'm going to show you, Steve's. Bye-bye, safe journey. All right, number 9, show an artist that deserves more attention. Okay, this one is, I think, an artist that is quite popular, but I don't think they're that popular for prog. And I think the reason why is because their later career had so much more than that, and they really got popular with pop. And the band I'm choosing is Supertramp. This is their first album, and this album is, I think, the proggiest album in their catalog. It's really good. I really like it. This is the original UK on A&M. It's a little harder to find, the UK pressing, but the US version is pretty easy to find. But their first two albums, they tanked, and a lot of people say they weren't a real band, or they didn't really have the chops because they were handpicked by this Dutch millionaire that basically paid their way and fronted the money for these first two albums, which he clearly didn't see any returns on. But this one I listen to on a regular basis, and I think that Supertramp doesn't really get much respect when it comes to the progosphere because of the poppy elements that they had and their success on the pop charts. But this first album is absolutely fantastic. It's worth checking out if you haven't. Here's the US version. The US version you can pick up. This is on the A&M silver label, real cheap. I mean, you can get this for under $10. So that's a great way to check it out if you've never heard it before. All right. Question number 10 is show your unpopular opinion about progressive music. So opinion that maybe goes against the grain or isn't mainstream as far as tropes about progressive music. So what I would say for that one is, and I don't have an album to show, but I would say progressive music and progressive rock is ubiquitous. It's in everything. And if an album isn't progressive, the chances are that there's a progressive song within that album. The chances are very high, right? There's so many songs that tell a story, that build, that introduce more elements or more instruments as they go along. You can think of almost a song from any artist that has that, right? So I think that progressive rock is not this big scary monster, but rather it's something that is in everything, and it's around us all the time, if you were. So that's kind of my opinion, or the way I feel about it. So, all right, next question. Number 11, who did it better cover song? So a cover of a prog rock cover. So for my prog rock cover, I am choosing the song All Along the Watchtower. And that song was covered It's written originally by Bob Dylan, of course, also covered by Jimi Hendrix, and then later covered by, in 1970, Affinity. So this is a really awesome album here. I don't have the Vertigo original UK, but this is a Paramount promo. But it's the last song on side 2, and it's a long cover. It's a whopping 11 minutes and 38 seconds. So they squeezed all the juice out of All Along the Watchtower, but it's really interesting to hear with a female lead. So definitely check that out if you've not heard that one. Okay, question number 12, a progressive artist that is still going strong. For this question, I chose Mr. Robert Fripp of King Crimson. See if you can see him in there. He's sitting with Brian Eno. And Mr. Fripp is a multi-instrumentalist, so he plays guitar, he can play keyboards, and he plays the mellotron as well. He played a lot of the awesome mellotron for King Crimson, and he's one of the only people to remain in the band since the inception, all the way up to, I think, 2003. So I'll show you some more of Mr. Fripp. And he's 78 years old, and he's been involved in more than 700 different albums, or not albums, but songs. So he's had a really amazing career. He's a wildly talented guy, and he's still kicking. He's still doing it. I love that. And I'll show you King Crimson as well here. This is in The Wake of Poseidon, their second album. It's a really good one. But he's a phenomenal guitarist. Okay, question number 13. That's not prog, is it? So I have to prove to you that a song or an album is prog. That's what we're doing with this one. So the first, I'm going to show you a few, but the first one I'm going to show here is called M-Frog. And this is a progressive electronic album. And this guy was French, and he spent some time in the seminary. He thought he wanted to be a priest for a while. He thought he wanted to be a doctor for a while. And then in 1973, he made this wild, crazy album. It's mostly electronic. There is some singing. There are some lyrics, but mostly all instrumental. It's a treat. You should definitely check it out if you get the chance. I'm going to show you a couple of songs that I think that are progressive that wouldn't normally, that aren't on progressive albums, right? First one I'm going to show you is Steve Miller Band, Circle of Love. And you'd say, Steve Miller, he doesn't do progressive rock. And I probably would agree with you most times. But the song on side 2 is called Macho City. And Macho City takes up all of side 2. And it's 18 minutes and 32 seconds. So I think that one definitely qualifies as a prog album or prog song, anyways. And this is just a great album too. This one came out in 1981, and this one's a sleeper. I loved this one when I was a kid. Listened to it all the time, and it just doesn't get much love or get talked about all that often. All right, another song that I've got for you that's off the cuff is the Buzzcocks, Singles Going Steady. And you'd say the Buzzcocks are punk, right? They are not prog. And again, on the average day for the average song, I'm definitely going to agree with you. But on the Singles Going Steady here, which is great too, because a lot of punk bands are singles artists, right? And they do have this song that I really like on the first side here. that's called Why Can't I Touch It? I think it may be on side B actually here. Yep, it's on side B. So Why Can't I Touch It? I'll show you right there. And that song builds and it builds and it builds, and it's 6 minutes and it's 33 seconds long. So most punk songs are right around the 3-minute mark, right? So this is more than double. And there's a reason for that, because it's not a traditional punk song. It's progressive. And it is one of my favorite songs that they perform. I'm going to take this one step even further and go so far as to say that I think Bob Dylan is one of the most progressive artists that has ever lived and is still living. And I'm going to show you, is his music progressive rock? No. But look at where he's come. This is his first album. He was a folk singer singing Pete Seeger style folk songs. And his second album, Freewheelin', still doing the same thing, a little bit more rock tinged. Then Bob, I'm bringing it all back home. He goes electric. So he progresses, he changes. Highway 61, Mike Bloomfield, Al Cooper, electric. He shocked everybody. But he didn't stay with that. He had Blonde on Blonde. He changed it up again. This is one of his most well-regarded albums, and it doesn't sound like a lot of other things in his catalog. And then what does he do next? He does John Wesley Harding. He goes country. Constantly evolving, constantly changing, constantly progressing. He does Nashville Skyline. Has a duet with Johnny Cash. That's a long way from folk singer. But that's not it. Then he's got Blood on the Tracks. It's a breakup album about his divorce. Does an album with the band, a roots rock album. And then what happens to Bob Dylan in the 80s? Yeah, you guessed it. He's a born-again Christian. Now he's singing Christian music. So this guy is constantly evolving, constantly changing. And again, not that everybody loved that, but you got to hand it to him. He's always trying something new. He usually has his pulse on what's going on. And that's why I would classify him as a progressive artist, even though his music isn't, I wouldn't say progressive rock or progressive, if that makes sense. All right, I think I've spun that one as hard as I can spin it. I feel like a lawyer. But anyways, next question. Number 14, show an album that has a female artist. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use the same one I used before. Affinity has lead singer Linda Hoyle. Absolutely beautiful voice. I'll show you the label on this one too. This promo is kind of fun. But yeah, that's a hard question because there's not a lot of lead singers or a lot of females in prog rock music. But this one fit both categories so well that I had to recycle it. So sorry, not sorry. All right, the last question is, show a progressive band or artist that you want to deep dive into this year in 2025. Well, again, I have a tough time following the rules, as I'm sure you're well aware if you've seen any of my videos, but I don't have just one that I want to deep dive into. I've got several. The first one I want to deep dive into is Can. This is the only album I have of theirs, limited edition. And they have so many good albums that I want to get and want to get into. So that's the first one. The other albums or artists I want to get into, the Soft Machine. I just have their first two albums, but they have so many more than just these two. So I want to listen to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it goes on and on and on with those guys. And the last artist that I want to get into, this is their only album that I have so far, is Pretty Things. This album, Parachute, is really good. But I know they've got a lot of other albums that are a lot better. And I want to check them out. So I've got one more honorable mention that I'm going to show you that I really like. And this one took me a while to track down. And this one's called Indian Summer. And I just wanted to show this because this one doesn't look like prog. It looks like psych music, but it's really good. It's on the RCA Neon label. But I'm going to read to you what's on the back here because these guys were discovered the same time as Black Sabbath, and they were hanging out with those guys actually. And Black Sabbath got signed before they did, and they didn't get signed, but then they went on to rehearse, and then they did eventually get signed, but not at the same time. So I'm just going to read on the back here. It says, in November 1969, I went up to Henry's Blues House in Birmingham with 3 of my then colleagues to see 2 groups handled by Midland manager promoter Jim Simpson, who was the manager for Black Sabbath. We signed one of them, that was Black Sabbath. 1 year and another record company later, Jim asked me up to Birmingham again. This time we signed the band we had earlier rejected in favor of Sabbath. The new band, Indian Summer, and what a difference the English summer had made to this Coventry group. Suddenly, after 2.5 years, it's all come together. Never one to quit while he's ahead. Jim took them to Roger Bain to produce, and so the same combination that earlier brought Sabbath to the world stage now takes up Indian Summer. History can repeat. Oh, and they're good too. Very good. Olav Weiper, RCA Records, London, 1/20/1971. So it sounds like he was hyping these guys up and thought that they were definitely going to make it. And they made this album. So they made that. But it's really fantastic. You should check it out. And they obviously didn't blow up like Black Sabbath did, but the one album they did make is pretty dang good. So, all right, I've gone on way too long, but I had a lot of fun with this, and I hope you had as much fun watching it, and we'll see you next time.